What is Howie Roseman doing when it's talking about how you're going to construct your game plan? That also means he's telling the coach who should play and not. The guy who built the team can destroy the team. Do you want to be great? Or do you want to be common? That's what we do here every day. We strive for greatness. We want our teams to be the best. Hell, we want to be the best in our life. That's why when we sit here and we're critical of certain things, it's always coming from a place of getting better. It's always coming from a place where when you hear me talk, if you think it's criticism, hating, whatever some of you call it, then you don't strive for greatness. Please hit the like button, and I'm going to start this thing off here by doing this. How can you be the worst tackling team in the National Football League and take 2 days off when you got a high-powered offense rolling into your football stadium on Monday night? Don't you think there's a sense of urgency somewhere there? Jesus criminy. If I had a performance like that, and my coaches, and my organization, and my general manager came to me and told me we're taking 2 days off, I'd get my freaking football team. We'd go out back, and we would practice ourselves. Got a bunch of time card punchers here. This is BS. That team don't work hard enough. You are not going to fulfill your destiny because you do not put the work in to be great. That is a fact. They don't work hard enough. Didn't work hard enough. And by the way, they'll never own it. Worst tackling team out of the 32 NFL teams resides in Philly. And you're telling me that that defense is going to be a top 10 defense? Never in your life. Do top 10 defenses not show up every week? I don't remember the great defenses ever going, don't worry about it. And we'll do what some of you guys do over here. It's 1 week, Sills. Who cares? Man, you can't be great sometimes. You got to be great all the time. When the lights are on and when the lights are off. Hit the like button. I'm going to do something here. I had a whole different show set up. But when I heard this, I had to go to the transcripts of this. And I want to read you something. It absolutely blows my mind. This was yesterday at Jonathan Gannon's press conference. When it comes to rotational positions, so not just D tackle, D end, is that sort of the game plan? That rotation? How much room is it of changing the game with you and the defensive line coach, Tracy Rocker? That was our very own John McMullen asked that question. Here's Jonathan Gannon's response. Yeah, we talked about, I think last year, I think it's a good question. Get this. We set up the game plan a certain way and say, hey, we want to come out of the game kind of looking like this. And we do that with head coach Nick Sirianni and Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. But then there is always room for us to get better and change the game as it unfolds. I could go on. Your general manager's part of your freaking game plan every weekend? Why? This guy doesn't trust your coaching staff. Howie Roseman doesn't trust Nick Sirianni or the D coordinator or the O coordinator. So he's involved in the offensive game plan. He's a general manager. Unless Howie Roseman was somebody like Ozzie Newsome or someone like that that had played in the game, had been able to wear dual helmets, I'm listening to Ozzie. What is Howie Roseman doing when it's talking about how you're going to construct your game plan? That also means he's telling the coach who should play and not. The guy who built the team can destroy the team. He has no trust because of what they did with him with Chip Kelly. This guy's not going to not have his thumbprints on anything that's not related to this team. If it has everything to do with Sunday game plans, winning, players active, players not active, players getting touches, Howie Roseman's got his thumbprint on it. Jay goes, this isn't new. This isn't new. That's the first time I have ever heard a general manager's name being brought up by a defensive coordinator where I heard him say it out loud. That stuff all before was innuendo. Now you're hearing a DC say this. We sit down with Howie Roseman and go over the game plan. This guy doesn't trust his coaches. This guy doesn't trust it. Dude, get the frig out of the way. This guy's going to be the undoing of this team's success this year. Something he built is going to be the undoing. Dude, he has no place in that room. He has no influence or shouldn't have any influence on who plays, what formations. This guy goes over formations with the GM before the game. It's the first time I've ever heard a defensive coordinator admit that the general manager is in the room outside of the Dallas Cowboys. Totally awful. That team's a Super Bowl team. Guy doesn't trust his coaching staff, which in turn means he doesn't trust his players. So Howie had something to do with that defensive game plan. Nice job, Coach. Coach Roseman. That's what I'm going to start calling him. Not the GM now, because now he's Coach Roseman. Coach Roseman now is going to get the same criticism that the rest of the coaches, because now that he's involved in the game plan, hey, Howie, you sucked out loud on Sunday defensively. Now you also open yourself up for that, Howie. You're not going to have an scapegoat in Jonathan Gannon when that thing falls on its face like it did on Sunday. And when Justin Jefferson, who you missed out on, goes for 250, you can't blame Jonathan Gannon for that because you're involved in the game plan too, son. Lions got better. Dan Campbell and that coaching staff, you could tell that thing's under their umbrella. Howie? Coach Roseman? Hey, right here out of the game plan. Hey, Philiopolis, I'll read it to you again. This is out of the Eagle transcript. This was a question John McMullen asked. I'll say it again to you, okay? I have it. When it comes to rotational positions and not just D tackle and D end, sort of a game plan. I'll show you where this guy right here, Philiopolis, is a jackass and making stuff up like many people in the Philly media do. Here's Gannon's response to rotation. Yeah, like we talked about it last year, I think it's a good question. We set up the game plan a certain way and say, we wanted the game to look like this. We do this with executive vice president and general manager Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. It's right there, right there, right there. Your GM is involved in your game plan. This is taken right from the press conference. Not fake news. Not fake news. Involved in the game plan. Wow. The man is an egomaniac. Coach Roseman can't get out of his own way. Can't. Here's the fundamental flaw so far going into the season. You overpaid for Fletcher Cox's return. That guy, he's not 14-4. I don't care what some of you think. That's not a $14.5 million player. Way past that day. Hargrave's got to get better. He's 12-9. That dude's got to get way better. Hassan Reddick, did he show up? You should put his face on a milk carton. Have you seen this kid? Man. And you have a GM involved in putting the pieces together. You're damn right your general manager could screw this season up. Get out of the way. Holy cow. That's a trust factor you have to have for your coaching staff, my friends. You got to believe in your coaches, or your players won't. You know why Jonathan Gannon has a problem with communication with his players? Because they know the buck doesn't stop there. Dude, I don't want a million voices in my team meeting room. I want one decision maker. One guy it has to run through. I don't want a convention of people to have to run something through. Every time you get multiple opinions, you never have what? Conviction in what you're doing. Anthony, yet and still 1-0. Congratulations to you. You will not beat elite teams with this approach. And you haven't in 2 years. You haven't beaten an elite team in 2 years. Don't talk to me about being 1-0. What's the last elite team the Eagles have won? 2.5 years ago? Don't talk to me like you guys are Super Bowl champions. You're paper champions as of September 14th. Don't talk like you've done something. And by the way, I echo Jason Kelce in that. You haven't beaten a team in 2.5 years. That was a legitimate team. Got your GM involved in your game plan. Man. Why? Why would you have a guy who's a personnel salary cap guy talking to me about running trap plays or defending the trap or talking about how they're going to approach the passing game or the run game? What could he possibly add to a game plan? What? What's his forte? What is his experience on putting a game plan together? Now I know why it looks the way it looks on defense. You know why? I told you this yesterday. Jonathan Gannon has a plug-and-play defense. You really think he means that literally? I do. You don't bring up the general manager's name when you're talking about going over a game plan. Absolutely. You could go through 31 other press conferences, and I could guarantee you no DC is going to say, yeah, I sat down with the GM yesterday, and we went over the game plan. Even in jest. Nobody does that. Nobody in Philly's going to say that because you know why? Bob Lang will shut their asses down. That's why. Got to be careful here. Got to be careful. I have a problem with it. Nobody in the Philadelphia market will say that but Big Sills. I have a total problem with that. Dude, you have coaches, you have GMs, you have scouts, you have people that work in a salary cap. Let them do their job. Or hire someone new. Everything goes through Howie Roseman, including play calling. Does the play sheet too? And again, this is why it looks like plug and play on defense. It's totally plug and play. That's why when you look, and that guy that was on with Sports Take today is awesome. And he's so right. Jonathan Gannon's defensive scheme is more important than the players that are on the field. He don't trust the players. He believes more in what he's doing than the players that are involved in the scheme. He doesn't customize defenses. A true defensive coordinator that knows what he's doing will look at the personnel that he has. He's not going to walk into a team meeting with a scheme until he sees what he has. How could you possibly know what you have when you didn't practice? You didn't put it together at all. Okay? You didn't put it together. It's a plug and play. Well, we'll put this player here. We'll put this player here. That's not a design scheme. Jim Johnson designed schemes. Buddy designed schemes. Bud Carson designed schemes. Some of the greatest D coordinators of all time, they design schemes to the type of personnel they have on the field. Okay? Flex goes, absolutely. I'd say screw. Yeah, well, Gannon, this is what he believes in. This is what he believes. Okay? This is how great coordinators do it. Buddy looks at Wilbur Marshall, Otis Wilson, and Mike Singletary, and Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, Richard Dent, Doug Plank, Gary Fensick, and they look at all those things, and Buddy goes like this. How can I utilize these guys to the best of their ability? What can I do to develop this system around those guys? Dude, do you actually think putting a 43 defense together and using that personnel would have had the same impact of the 46? Absolutely not. Buddy had to sit there and go like this. Let me design this to the strengths of what Wilbur does. He's a headhunter. Doug Plank was going to kill people. Gary Fensick, too. We'll get pressure from Dent and McMichael. Hampton's a Hall of Famer, too. Buddy designed a scheme around these guys. That's what a true coordinator does. He doesn't walk in with a 34 or 43 or a 50 front or a bear look and go like this. Well, let's just plug the players in. You customize a scheme to this. That's why Hassan Reddick hasn't had a job in 3 years when it comes to somebody bringing him back year in and year out. Because no one's developed in Arizona and in Carolina. Same thing. They couldn't design a scheme around him. Jim Johnson would have did the same thing with Hassan Reddick that they did with Hugh Douglas. They would have designed a position for him. Reggie goes, we don't dwell on the past. This ain't the past. This is 19 ball games, guy. You think I'm talking about the Lion game? Holy cow. Some of you guys, man, are so narrow-minded in how you approach things. This is 19 ball games. This ain't one game. This is 19 games. You don't think you already know who this dude is after 19 ball games? I was told last year it was because of the shitty personnel. Not true. This guy's who he is. And it won't change. And it won't change. It won't change. This is 19 ball games. Jack goes, Reddick is a pass rusher. He sure is, because he can't play the run and he can't play the pass when it comes to covering backs or tight ends. You're damn right you're right. Okay? You're damn right. He's one-dimensional. And the Eagles gave a one-dimensional player $10 million. So you gave Fletcher 14-4, completely overpaid him. And you gave a one-dimensional ball player 10. That's why Howie, and you hear Jonathan Gannon going, yeah, he's going to cover some passes too. He's going to do, yeah, because you know why? You don't pay $10 million for a guy who does one thing, and you have to take him up off the field half the time. He's not on the field 25% of the game because he's one-dimensional. He's one-dimensional. This is 19 ball games going into your 20th game. You guys think I'm sitting here talking about the freaking Lion game? I'm talking about 19 ball games. Seriously, Philly 500 is on this at the bottom of the hour here, Ryan. He's on at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to talk to our friend. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw. Man, it's not that it's new news that Howie's involved in everything. It's one thing to hear your defensive coordinator being asked questions by our very own John McMullen at the Eagle press conference, and for him to actually say that Howie's involved in the game planning. And they go over it with Sirianni and Howie Roseman, and you hear him saying that. This is what we want to kind of look like when we go into the game and out of the game here, and we sit down with Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, and we go over the game plan. That's what he said. Okay? Jay Gannon is a DB coach, and his style – sorry, brother, repost that for me here. LP, Gannon is using his Prius to go across the Sahara, uses a Land Cruiser to go grocery shopping. Frustrating as hell, absolutely. Thank you, Nathan. It's insane. It is insane, Jeff. Dude, you know, here's why, too. You hurt the credibility of your coaches and your coaching staff in the locker room when you know other people are involved in decision-making on how the game – and too many voices. What happens with too many voices? Too many opinions and no clarity. That's why it's not aggressive. That's not an aggressive approach. That's by committee. They play defense by committee and plug and play. And that's why it looks like that. Tell me I'm wrong. That's why it looks like that. And get this, Howie's influence on the team was not to be in shape and run. That's his influence. And when you're not in condition, what happens? You start playing high, your angle tackling is horrible, and you're the worst tackling team in the league. Man, my God almighty, if somebody told me that my team after week 1 was the worst tackling team in the league, with our performance, I'd hang my head. I wouldn't be sitting around going, we're going to take 2 days off of practice. Jesus criminy. What kind of stuff is that? Dude, man, this is a really weird approach to things. I am not in favor of any of it. This is really weird. You don't practice hard enough. You're not in shape. You were the worst tackling team and you take 2 days off? 19 games of defensive coordinating tells me who Jonathan Gannon is, not just the Lions game. And you got the GM involved. Why? Is the owner too? Boy, you guys got a happy little crew there. What do you guys have? Bagels and Cokes and such, and sit there and you talk about the game plan with the owner and the GM? It's a weird approach, man. Hey, they may win a Super Bowl. I now see why Doug Peterson was frustrated with this. This would frustrate the hell out of me. I don't want to have conversations with you. They're still holding those Monday conversations with the coach and the coordinators. The general manager is still having those conversations on Monday. There's no way that's not happening. There is no way that's not happening. Dude, you weaken your coach's places in the locker room. Like, look at Dallas. You guys hate the Cowboys, right? And you look at the approach that Jerry has. I mean, the head coach and the coordinators in that building, dude, they got the same fundamental system. And you know what? Hey, I'll say this to you, though. And to be fair, Howie's had more success than Jerry. At least over the last 22 years, he has. Okay? He has. Jerry early because he had a good football man in the building.